Picture this. A glittering evening turns deadly. A body is found, secrets spill, and everyone's a suspect. Murder on the Orient Express steams into the Zach Theater stage January 21st through March 1st with intrigue, elegance, and jaw-dropping 1930s grandeur. Agatha Christie's iconic whodunit is packed with twists, deception, and edge-of-your-seat suspense. Perfect for fans of mystery, elegance, and gasp-worthy storytelling. So get your tickets now at zachtheater.org. Safe Alliance is Austin's leading organization helping survivors of domestic violence, sexual assault, and trafficking escape abuse and rebuild their lives. Right now in Austin, 88 people are waiting for Safe's emergency shelter. Nearly 40 of them are children. If every person in the Austin metro gave just $1 a month, it would house 1,000 people every night. So start your monthly gift today at safeaustin.org/citycastgives. That's SAFEAUSTIN.org/citycastgives. $1, huge impact. By now, we've all heard about President Trump's takeover of Venezuela, but you might not know Texas and Venezuela go way back. So today on CityCast Austin, my guest gets into the multi-billion-dollar history, how the latest news is going to affect Texans, and why we should care here in Austin. It's Wednesday, January 7th. I'm Nikki Devon, and this is what Austin's talking about. Hello, I am here today with Chris Tomlinson, columnist for The Statesman and Hearst newspaper. What's up, Chris? Thank you for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me on, Nikki.
So I am... maybe everybody that's listening to this, I don't know if they are as obsessed with what's going on with Venezuela as I am, but it is just now taken over my entire brain power. So for everyone listening, the U.S. recently arrested Venezuela's leader, and President Donald Trump has said that he will take control of Venezuela's oil industry. And one reason why this matters in Austin specifically is because this move could greatly impact our state budget, as well as jobs in Austin and throughout Texas. And so, Chris, can you off top tell us why that is? Tell us why this affects us and why we should be concerned, or if we should be concerned.
Sure. Well, obviously, Texas is one of the largest oil-producing regions in the world. We make up the vast majority of oil produced by the United States. The United States produces about 13 million barrels a day. But also, very importantly, we take oil from all over the world and we refine it along our Gulf Coast in Houston, Freeport, Corpus Christi. And so we've been doing business with Venezuela for a very long time. We have brought in oil from Venezuela, refined it in Texas, and then sent it back off to the world. And, you know, that's been going on for at least 60 years. But when Hugo Chavez took power in the early 2000s, Venezuela was producing about 3 million barrels a day. That's the most it's ever produced. And they used Texas oil companies to produce that oil. Exxon, ConocoPhillips, Chevron. And then one day Hugo Chavez said, oh, well, we're going to nationalize everything and we're going to kick out all of you foreign oil companies, except for Chevron. Chevron cut a special deal, but Exxon and ConocoPhillips were suddenly kicked out and lost literally billions of dollars worth of assets and investments. And so this is why Venezuela and Texas have been tied together for decades, is through the oil business. And so for people who work adjacent to the oil business in Austin, it's a big deal. You know, all these data companies look at the oil reservoir data. They use AI to figure out the best way to drill stuff. These are important jobs, not only in Austin, but across Texas. And so if you care about the state budget, if you care about jobs in Texas, you really should care about what's happening in Venezuela.
I'm kind of blown away. So like to your point, you know, Austin is home of the Bureau of Economic Geology at UT. And so lots of petroleum scientists and data scientists, like you said, who analyze this data, right? So we're at the bare minimum, we're just talking about jobs being affected and people's ability to make income. But I guess what I'm confused about is if Texas has already been having what sounds like a pretty lucrative and easy peasy connection with Venezuela and it's been working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. What what do you think is like? Is it so that we can have more access to the oil? Is it so that we can have complete control altogether? I guess I'm missing, like, if we're already doing it, then are we trying to get back to when we had complete control? Is that what's happening?
We're trying to get back to when we had more control, right?
Okay,
I mean,
okay.
Hugo Chavez's regime and Maduro took over when Hugo Chavez died, was deeply corrupt, right? The reason why they took over, nationalized the oil business, kicked out Exxon and ConocoPhillips, and then put really big restrictions on Chevron was because they wanted the money. Right. And so they started skimming all the money off the top. They stopped reinvesting. They stopped sharing the profits with these foreign oil companies. And so now, net Venezuela produces about 750,000 barrels a day compared to 3 million barrels a day in 2007.
Okay.
All right. So you've got that massive loss of output on, that oil is no longer coming to America to be refined. That is billions of dollars in losses for the U.S. companies. And that's why when President Donald Trump says, oh, we're going to take our oil back, what he's really saying is that, Exxon and ConocoPhillips made these investments in Venezuela, building wells and refineries and facilities in return for a portion of Venezuela's oil. And Venezuela kind of owes Exxon and ConocoPhillips billions of dollars.
It's like a breach of contract.
It was a big breach of contract. So that's what Trump is talking about when he says, "Oh, we're going to go take our oil back." Well, it's oil that is contractually obligated to U.S. companies that counts as a debt. And so I guess the goal here is that by using the military to put pressure on Venezuela's government, that they'll somehow clean up their act, they'll stop being corrupt, and they'll let in the Texas oil companies and let them take out the oil that they were promised 25 years ago.
Wow. So I'm imagining that this will mean cheaper gas prices. Right? I mean, or am I looking at this the wrong way? If we have control over everything, then the first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, well, then that means cheaper gas prices for us. But maybe it's not that simple.
It is.
Yeah,
it really is that simple. Okay. If you put more oil on the market, prices go down. World oil companies have flooded the market since this time last year. So oil prices are down 20% compared to where they were a year ago. And that means that we've got 20% cheaper gasoline for all of us, because the price of gasoline is set on the global price of oil. And so for the consumer, this is a really good thing. If Venezuela, which has more oil underground than any other country in the world, if that oil is made available to the market, then that should bring down prices. Now, this is a double-edged sword because in Texas, we need about $60 a barrel to make an oil well profitable.
Okay.
And the price today is $57.
Whoa, okay.
And the price is still going down. And it's expected to go down because there's so much more oil coming on the market. And that's good for most Americans and most Texans, really, because it's cheaper gasoline.
Right.
But sadly, this could put a big dent in the small Texas oil companies that drill primarily out in West Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, for the big boys like Chevron and Exxon, if they go back into Venezuela, they'll be fine. But if you only produce oil in West Texas, you're going to be hurting if this happens.
Oh man. So now we're talking about affecting small business here, kind of like the little guy that's been holding it down for us all these years in West Texas.
That's exactly right.
Moontower Comedy Festival returns to Austin April 8th through 19th, 2026, and I, for one, cannot wait. This is one of the biggest comedy festivals in North America. We're talking about a 2-week comedy onslaught with over 150 of the world's top and emerging comedians taking over downtown Austin for nonstop stand-up, podcasts, and parties, performing everywhere from fancy arena shows to the sweet, sticky floors of intimate comedy clubs. Headliners include Mark Maron, Leslie Jones, Kathy Griffin, and more. Tickets and badges are on sale now, and there are so many options to choose from. You can get a single headliner's ticket, a club badge for days of dedicated club shows, or daily wristbands, just to name a few. So go on over to moontowercomedyfest.com now to get your tickets and badges. That's moontowercomedyfest.com. Imagine this, your next podcast recorded in the same studio where you're hearing this right now. That's Trick Hat Workway. Trick Hat is Austin's most hospitality-driven co-working space. And yes, they've got a pro-level podcast studio designed for creators, teams, and businesses who want high-quality recordings without the stress of hunting down space or gear. Just show up, plug in, and hit record. Outside the studio, Trick Hat's got you covered. From private offices to dedicated desks, they offer flexible co-working options to fit any business or entrepreneur's needs. And can we talk about the perks? Freshly brewed coffee from Manana, endless snacks, and crispy Diet Cokes. But what really makes Trick Hat different is the energy. From weekly networking opportunities to community trick chats, it's more than a place to work. It's where Austin comes to connect, create, and have fun doing it. Whether you're producing your next big idea or just need a space that feels good to work in, Trick Hat Workway is waiting for you, where it's always old Austin, new tricks. Visit trickhatworkway.com to learn more today. I want to talk about reactions and if you've been hearing any reactions to this activity, because, you know, Texas has the second largest population behind Florida of Venezuelans in the U.S. So are you hearing from people that have fled Venezuela to live in Austin? Like, what are you hearing about how Venezuelans are feeling about this essentially takeover? Because that's what it is. It's a takeover.
Yeah, I mean, Houston has the third largest Venezuelan population outside of Venezuela.
Wow.
We have a lot of Venezuelans here in Austin. I know many Venezuelan exiles, some former journalists who came here over a decade ago who still have family in Caracas. And they're telling me they don't know what to think. And they're kind of afraid to speak out because they don't know what to say. I mean, they're excited Nicolas Maduro's gone. You know, that's a huge, big deal, great thing to have happen.
Yeah.
But they're also wondering, you know, why is President Trump leaving the rest of the regime in power?
Yeah.
You know, and if Donald Trump's plan is to leave the Chavistas, no, that's the name of their political party that rules Venezuela, they leave the Chavistas in power, like the new president, Delcy Rodriguez, and they leave the same drug dealers as the Minister of Defense and the Minister of Interior and Minister of Police. They weren't changed. They're still in power.
Wow.
And so Venezuelans are going, well, yeah, great, Maduro's gone, but what's really changed?
And what's in it for Venezuelans, really? I mean, it's like, it kind of sounds like one of those things. It's like, at least Maduro's the devil, you know. You know what I mean? And you know, and you can argue about whether or not that's good or not, but it's like, it sounds like out of the frying pan and into the fire kind of thing. It doesn't feel like, I mean, it's like, yeah, Americans will have cheaper gas, but I would be really concerned about what this means for everyone else. And you know, what does this mean for the people that actually have to live in Venezuela?
Yeah, I mean, that is the question, right? Yeah. And we don't know the answer yet. And we're not going to know the answer probably for weeks or months. What I will say is that Secretary of State Marco Rubio was very clear over the weekend when he said, well, we're not really going to run Venezuela, but we're going to keep all of our forces off the coast of Venezuela. And if they don't do what we want, we're just going to bomb them some more.
Jesus.
And he also said that, our number one concern is what's good for America, and what's good for America is cheap gasoline. The democracy for Venezuelans, that's not as important.
Yeah, it's
that's
secondary.
second, third, or fourth
Yeah.
on the list of priorities, right? And so if you're a Venezuelan and you hear that from the Secretary of State, you're going to be like, oh, well, maybe this is not the promise of democracy that we had hoped for.
Yeah, it's purgatory. Yeah.
That's exactly right.
Wow. And I think, I feel like those are your words, but but that's exactly what it is. I mean, it's like, this sounds crazy. And so, okay, so here we are in Austin, and listen, we love to protest locally, especially when it comes to President Trump. And so there's been some local protests to the actions. And I'm, super curious, because to your point, and it makes a lot of sense that Venezuelans just don't know what to do. It's like, I understand that so much. I wouldn't know how to feel. And so who's protesting? Because like you've just reminded me that there are probably a lot of Venezuelan people that don't feel safe. They don't feel safe, especially not in Texas, to protest. So who are you seeing any information about who is protesting and what these protests are about?
Oh, well, I mean, it's the people doing their best to keep Austin weird, right? I mean, these are the old hippies and leftists and people who protest every act of violence committed by this government, whether it's Joe Biden or whether it's Bill Clinton or George Bush or Donald Trump. The minute you start bombing foreign countries, these people come out and say, hey, we don't like war. We want peace. And, and I think that's completely legitimate. I mean, there are some very serious legal questions about whether or not Donald Trump's actions over the weekend were legal. They certainly don't appear to be legal under international law, and they may be illegal under domestic law, but it's a mess.
I'm so glad you say that. That was the first thing that I was thinking about. I was like, it cannot be legal for this man to just go to another country and just say, okay, this is ours now. This is it. We want to take what we have decided is the most important thing, and that's your oil. And it's now all belongs to us. Like, he just Columbused it. That's the first thing I thought was, this cannot be legal. This can't be. How did he get away with it? It's kind of the first thing I thought about, other than brute force and violence.
Well, and this is nothing new from this administration, right? I mean, Donald Trump has used military force without the permission of Congress, which is a violation of domestic law, to carry out coercive attacks on foreign nations, which is illegal under international law.
Right.
He's bombed 4 countries in the Middle East. He's bombed 2 countries in Africa. Now he's bombed 1 in South America, and he's threatening to bomb Nicaragua, Colombia, Mexico, and even Greenland, which, by the way, is a NATO ally. So it's.
I heard Cuba. I heard he was like,
and Cuba. Cuba too.
Like, none of this makes sense. And so, I'm curious about what, in your opinion, what should we be on the lookout for? Like, especially when it comes to what's happening in Venezuela. What do you think we're going to see next? Because right now it feels like it's just chaos. It's just like a little bit of chaos, and they're trying to like pick things up with a sieve. You know what I mean? It's like none of this is making sense. So what should we be watching, and what should we be paying attention to?
Well, the first thing is we should not expect those cheap gas prices anytime soon, right?
Right.
Even if we started today, it would be a year to 2 years before Venezuela could possibly ramp up to 1.5 million barrels a day. It would probably take a decade to get back up to 3 million barrels a day. And all of this assumes that this new government, that the revised government, the new president, same regime, but new president, new figurehead in Caracas, just does everything we want them to do immediately, which they're not going to. They're going to slow roll it. We also have this small problem that we can block all of these tankers carrying oil away from Venezuela. But, half of that oil is going to China to repay debts because China loaned Venezuela a ton of money. So if we think China is just going to sit back and go, oh, yeah, don't worry about paying us back with that oil. We don't care about the Venezuelan debt. Well, that's not true either, right? And then, of course, we have a new leader in the country who's weak. Can she maintain power? Will her army turn against her? Will they attempt a coup? Will the opposition take up arms and start a civil war? I mean, there is so many ways for this to go wrong and sideways that it could be a decade before we see any of this oil that Donald Trump believes belongs to us. So, yeah, this story is just beginning, and there are layers of it that we haven't even uncovered yet.
I am fascinated. I don't even, the fact that, I don't know why I thought that there was going to be some sort of immediacy. I don't know why I thought that. That was a silly thought. So yeah, of course we're not going to see anything. Of course we're not going to see any changes from this for several years and maybe even 10 years. I did not know the thing about China. That could cause some even, things are already strained between, I think, us and China. That's just adding another, log to the fire that's already brewing between us. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And mind you, if Exxon and ConocoPhillips want to go back, they have to negotiate contracts. And they have to be confident that the government they're negotiating with is still going to be in power a year from now.
Oh, shit. That's right. That's right.
So, business needs stability and predictability. And right now, we have none of that in Venezuela. And Donald Trump has made the situation more unstable and more unpredictable than before.
Oh, my gosh. Chris, thank you so much for explaining this to me so easily and quickly. This has been the perfect, succinct explanation of all of this. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this.
Oh, my pleasure, Nikki. And thanks for having me on the show.
Before we go, here's a little midweek mood boost for you. The Sims Foundation is launching the Dick Chalmers Music Venue Program, which is a fund dedicated to helping venue workers get counseling, psychiatric care, and recovery support. Dick Chalmers, who passed away in November, was a longtime Red River fixture whose career spanned venue operations, production work, and mentorship. Venue workers like sound engineers, door staff, lighting techs, barbacks deal with long hours, irregular pay, physically demanding work, high turnover, and limited access to mental health support, which all leads to burnout. And according to Sarah Andrews, who is the Sims Chief Advancement Officer, a lot of venue staff just aren't aware of what's available to them. So Sims staff and venue workers from all around Austin sat down to discuss how to make things better, and the program was born. And Andrews said it's important not to overlook a community that often serves as the connective tissue for the live music ecosystem. And y'all, this is my favorite quote from Andrews. She said, if Austin wants to continue to have this thriving live music culture, then we need to be supporting everyone who's bringing that culture to life. That's not just our musicians. It's all of the folks in the background who are making these shows and gigs and concerts happen. Fuck yeah, Sims stays out here doing great work. And here is how you can get involved. Right now, multiple venues are participating in a Dry January mocktail fundraiser with proceeds benefiting Sims and the Venue Worker Initiative. So get on out there and support y'all. That's all for today here on CityCast Austin. You can find links to Chris's reporting in our show notes. If you enjoyed the show, you already know. Tell your friends, rate our show, leave us a review, and of course, subscribe to Hey Austin newsletter. And if you really love CityCast Austin, you can support us, become our neighbor, hang out with us. Go today at membership.citycast.fm. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Bye, y'all.